Spending your Halloween in a hospital. Here's your look at the NECA Toys Halloween 2 Michael Myers and Dr. Loomis. While Sheriff Brackett and Dr. Loomis hunt for Michael Myers, a traumatized Lori is rushed to hospital, and the serial killer is not far behind her. First, before we begin, I'd like to thank the folks over at NECA Toys that did provide this sample of Halloween 2's Michael Myers and Dr. Loomis that we could have a look at in this review. Grabbing now the ruler to see how tall the figures stand. First of all, Michael Myers is 7.5 inches in height, or just a little over 19 centimeters tall. On to measuring Dr. Loomis now. Dr. Loomis is shorter. He's 7.25 inches in height, or he's about 18.5 centimeters tall. Then for your comparisons, while we don't have much for 78, we certainly have a lot more for Halloween 2. Released before, NECA Toys did put out an ultimate Michael Myers from Halloween 2. And while it, yes, looks like they are sharing the same bodies and the same costuming, their head sculpts are, though, drastically different from one another. NECA Toys also did release a Halloween 2 retro cloth Michael Myers. A great looking figure, really. I think the head sculpt still stands up well today. A long package with Laurie Strode. There was also a retro cloth Dr. Sam Loomis. And along with that, of course, Laurie Strode. Although we don't really have ourselves a Laurie Strode, at least from 78 or from Halloween 2. Can you even see her? Let's just move her over just a little bit. Laurie Strode does have a little bit of difficult time getting to stand. But yeah, well, we do have ourselves a 2018 Laurie Strode. We have still yet to get one from 78, and we still have yet to get one from Halloween 2 in an ultimate style. I certainly hope that's something that will be changed in future releases. NECA has outdone themselves once again, packing a ton of accessories with both the Dr. Loomis and Michael Myers figure. While yes, some are samesies that we got released before with the ultimate Michael Myers from Halloween 2, and yes, some also were included along with the retro cloth Laurie and Loomis. It's nice to have kind of everything brought together in one release. And of course, yes, there are some newsies added in there as well. Newsies like the flame attachments that can attach onto Michael Myers' body, replicating the scene he has walking out of the hallway of the hospital, burning to a crisp. More on that in a second. In the meantime, though, let's start things off with a pumpkin. And while it's not necessarily a pumpkin we see at the opener of the movie while the credits of the movie scroll, which I think they play the Halloween 2 theme with a harpsichord. Very similar to what you would have seen in the Addams Family. Anyways, though, this is the pumpkin that we would have had for advertising and the marketing of the film. More importantly, you would have seen this on the poster art. You would have also seen this on the VHS subsequent release, and in some of the cases, released over on DVD with strange glowing green font. How many of you still have that copy? I think I still do. Yes, it would have been nice on one end of it if they had still included the pumpkin that came included with the ultimate Michael Myers, which I just so happen to have right now. Yes, that would have been nice to come included with it, but let's just say, for the sake of argument, you're not big into collecting the retro cloth figures from NECA Toys, and that's fine. That's okay. Technically, yes, you would have already gotten this pumpkin likely with the ultimate release Michael Myers, so to get a double dip again probably doesn't make much sense at all. This is the pumpkin again for the advertising of the film. This is the pumpkin that we certainly see at the opener of the film while this opens up. And then, of course, we got the little skull on the inside. Minus some of the little pumpkin mucus and strands on the inside, but it certainly was fun that they included that in the first place. This pumpkin we'll put to the side, and instead we'll bring in this pumpkin, which happens to be a carbon copy to this one right here. This is the one that came included with the retro cloth Laurie and Loomis. And it is, as you can see, identical. Colors certainly seem a little brighter, though, on this one than it does on this one here. The colors seem a little bit more darker and almost grungier on the retro cloth release. I do think like the wash that they've added to the skull do make the features stand out a little bit more than what we get right here. But certainly points, I think, I would award to this one being just more brighter colors. And again, we just can spin this around so you can see it from all the sides. I do like, again, that they included it, and yes, I mean, if you are collecting everything, that you're getting a double dip of the same pumpkin, but yes, to be fair, even though you did already get this one in the retro cloth release, I guess it is probably a good idea that they gave us different pumpkins with this particular release of Loomis and Michael Myers. While not really meant for Michael Myers, Dr. Sam Loomis gets, though, 2 different firearms they can carry in hand. The top one really being his go-to, the Smith & Wesson Model 15. The one to the bottom that's slightly different is the Colt Trooper. This is the one that gets pulled from the marshal that Laurie Strode ends up using to shoot the eyes out for Michael Myers. You can see that they are slightly different, especially when you look to the top of the barrel. Loomis's has got a more of a pointed end on the end of the barrel, where the bottom Colt Trooper is a little more flatter to the top. So, of course, this is the one I'm going to want to display with Dr. Loomis. As it stands right now, the figure out of box stock can already carry his gun. As you can see, the figure already has a trigger firing hand. Simply just take the gun, wedge it in between the thumb and the pointer, slide it down as best you can get it. And the beauty of really having the hand already with the trigger finger is that you can see the hand already lines up perfectly on the trigger of the gun. I'm not really sure necessarily what I'll do with the other gun. I hope at some point that we are going to be getting ourselves an Ultimate Laurie Strode from Halloween 2. And if that's the case, I'll probably just display her with that. Or I'm pretty certain as well, if they do eventually release her, she's probably going to get her own firearm as well. I guess while we're certainly on the topic of Loomis, and we'll kind of move off and look at Michael Myers' accessories in a second, the figure also comes included with the lighter hand. I'm going to show you guys that right now. Funny enough, I remember seeing on eBay, somebody was selling a whole bunch, I think these are Bic lighters, but they were selling the exact model that we're seeing in Halloween 2. And the advertisement on that listing actually said screen, I don't think it said screen used, but it said same lighter used in Halloween 2. And that actually was the way it advertised it. I don't even know if he was able to even sell it. I was almost even considering to buy one. And I said to myself, what am I really going to be doing with a lighter? But anyways, you can see that the lighter already is molded to Loomis's hand, and he's already hit the little switch to the top and emitted a tiny little flame. It's time, Michael. You can, of course, take this, change it out with the hand that already has the firearm. Just go ahead and remove both the same at the same time. And then we can go ahead, just take the hand that has the lighter. There we go. And you have Dr. Sam Loomis carrying the lighter around with him. The only thing that's really missing from having it set up like this is the more anguished look on Loomis's face. He's kind of more of a just neutral head sculpt. But yeah, I do like the idea that they included the lighter. And really smart, really, when you think about it too, that NECA Toys didn't include the lighter as being a separate piece. Because guaranteed, something that small would easily have been lost like that. I'm glad they see that just actually sculpted it to his hand instead. You may also see off to the side a couple of side arms. No, not the guns that we were just finishing having a look at. He actually comes literally with a pair of side arms. Loomis actually does have, which is really clever on their part, a removable jacket. A lot of times whenever we do jacket characters in these reviews, I always say, you can remove the jacket, but unfortunately the sleeves will still remain the same from the coat. In this case, you can actually take these arms off completely, and underneath is an actual serviceable suit that Loomis can carry or wear. I'm going to go ahead and first of all just take the hands off, because we're only going to have to change those off anyways. First of all, I guess it probably would be helpful if you guys wanted to see what it looked like with the jacket in place. Because after all, that is a trademark look for Loomis. The jacket itself is a soft enough plastic. It does have a little bit of give, and for obvious reasons, it's detached altogether from the suit jacket he wears underneath. It's a high collar. It doesn't have like the retro cloth look to it, for example, so I'm going to bring in the retro cloth Loomis right now. I will say, to the credit of this figure, it does seem to have more movie-accurate colors to the jacket itself, whereas the retro cloth Loomis seem to have a little bit more of a lighter beige color. Loomis seems to have a little more yellow in his jacket. I'm glad to see that they got a little more of a closer color when it came to the Ultimate release of Loomis. Just think of it now. We have ourselves finally an Ultimate Sam Loomis. The only one that we had gotten before was the Night He Came Home set, with a very limited stactioned Loomis, with very little posability, and a very outdated head sculpt and body. This one looks so much better, though. First of all, of course, as you can see, the jacket with a higher collar, it's, again, softer plastic. Some really nice wrinklage that they did put on. Did I just say wrinklage? Wrinklage in the jacket itself. Again, being that they've used a softer material, too, that's not going to limit any bit of the articulation when it comes to the figure. And even though I'm probably going to still stick to the idea of keeping Loomis in his jacket, I'll certainly show you guys what it looks like in this review. So, as we were doing, we're going to go ahead and pop the hands off. Let's resume with the rest of these steps. We're going to go ahead and also remove the arms. Now, I know you're probably thinking to yourself, wait a minute, how difficult are the arms to remove? Not difficult at all, actually. I didn't have to heat them or anything at all. It was very easy to remove both the arms. Just go ahead and just wiggle them back and forth as you're pulling them out. There we go. And then from there, armless Loomis, you can go ahead and just slip the jacket off. And then from there, you can go ahead and take yourself the suit arms, and we're going to just pop those back into place. You can either bring these shoulders down first, if it helps you at all, and then I find you can just put your thumb against this with the arm bent slightly. Pushing your thumb right there helps to sort of assist and get that shoulder in place. Do the exact same thing on this side. Put that in. Pop in the shoulder. This one actually I think is a little bit tighter, but there we go. We'll work the exact same way. Whenever I see Loomis really like this, because half the time, or most of the time, we always see him with his jacket on, I always really think of that scene where he's inside of that. It was a deleted scene from the original Halloween film. I think they ended up using a footage like that for the televised version of the film. But it was Loomis inside the courtroom, sort of fighting to have Michael Myers stay behind bars. And we can go ahead and take the hands and pop those back into place. Of course, it's going to look a little strange out of place if Loomis doesn't actually have hands. We're going to go ahead and take the hand that actually had, as Loomis really doesn't have a lot of extra hands to work with. I'm going to take the trigger hand, and we're going to pop that back into place also as well. So at least we have ourselves a fully finished figure. And that's what Dr. Loomis looks like, certainly with just his suit jacket on. And I'm loving the idea that they actually gave us serviceable arms where you could actually replace the jacket and take it off altogether. And you could, of course, just move the jacket off to the far side, put that in a box somewhere if you don't decide to display Loomis. I'm so very tempted to pick up a second one of this set. First of all, then I could display Michael Myers with the bloodied eyes, which we'll look and talk about more in a second. But also then I could display Dr. Sam Loomis in two different looks. As for the jacket itself, one thing I did notice that a lot of people were commenting on were the little flecks of paint. See that? It's all across his arms, it's all across the jacket, and also in the legs as well. In the movie, he does have it as well. Now, I've seen to some extreme cases where there seems a lot more of this flecks of paint added to it. Mine actually isn't that bad at all. I have seen some instances, and it's just the way it comes off the factory line, that some of them were a lot more speckled. This one actually isn't too bad at all. It's really strange to kind of see Loomis with little less shoulders because the jacket would fill him out a lot more. He's a little more slimmer and trimmer now that he's certainly got just the jacket and just the pants on. The jacket, by the way, isn't removable. It's attached right there, and I wouldn't want to rip that open just to show you his shirt and tie underneath. But he does have a tie that's actually molded to his shirt. And of course, he's got a little bit of sleeve from his shirt sticking out the bottom of his suit jacket. Nice little buttons there on the sides of his sleeves. And overall, just a really nice looking figure if you did want to display Loomis like this. I'm probably not until I eventually get myself a second one of these sets. Then I'm going to have myself a suited jacket version of Loomis. And I'm going to have myself a regular, well, the regular trench coat version of Loomis. Getting a closer look, though, at Loomis's head sculpt. Of course, that's the thing you guys, I'm sure, will be wanting to see. I'm very happy with this one. I did certainly want to compare it to the retro cloth release Loomis. You know, I will say, like, the two different head sculpts do things better in both the cases. Like, I feel like the coloring is a little nicer on the retro cloth release. It seems a little softer, honestly, on the ultimate release Loomis. But I do think I like the head shape a lot more on this one. And I think the eyes work a little bit better. Colors, again, I think are a little bit nicer on the retro cloth release. But I do, again, think the head sculpt is nicer on the ultimate release. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments section. For, of course, Loomis's articulation. I guess we should make sure we've covered off all the rest of his accessories. Yes, check, check, check. Okay, we're good. Looking at the rest of, for Loomis's articulation, his head does rotate all the way around. It sits, of course, on a dumbbell ball joint. What that basically means is there's a ball joint right here, or there's a ball joint right there. And yeah, it looks looks like a little bit like a dumbbell. A head does, as a result of that, go down. It looks up. It angles as well, back and forth. And yeah, you can rotate Loomis's head all the way around. Arms do come out. Now, they're going to be a little more limited. You can get them just a little below a 90-degree angle bend. I mean, that's as far. Right now, I'm already hitting resistance. It's telling me, don't push that any further beyond that point. You can be a sad panda. I'm going to listen to the shoulder joint for that. It's going to go to about 45. About a 45 degree. Arms, of course, rotate all the way around. Loomis only, sadly, has a single hinge in the elbow. I'm surprised they actually didn't incorporate a double hinged elbow for Loomis, but a single hinge is more than enough for him to shoot Michael Myers 6 times and tell the entire neighborhood that he's done it. Hands rotate, yes, all the way around. And you can hinge them, of course, back and forth this way. The upper torso, yes, is also on a ball joint, so you can rotate that comfortably all the way around. Loomis's legs also split out to about there. Take the legs, move them forward, move them also back. Mild swivel just on the top, more so just the way it's been assembled. Figure has only a single hinge in the lower leg. Leg rotates back and forth this way. Feet move up and down, and also there's an ankle pivot. going to keep this like this for the time being, because certainly you guys, I'm sure, aren't going to be wanting to see me spending the time of putting him back in his jacket. Gotta say, I'm liking the look of Loomis. So thrilled we finally got ourselves an ultimate Sam Loomis. Whether you decide to display him with the suit look, like he is right now, or you decide to display him with I think the more traditional look of him with the trench coat. Really love the idea that NECA Toys gave you the option, as always is the case too, a temptation to buy a second one of these, and I'm already feeling it right now. I'm going to probably be looking online after this video, see if I can track down another set of these so I can have myself Loomis in 2 different looks. On to now Michael Myers accessories, and the figure gets quite a lot. We're going to start things off first with looking at hammers. Hammers are always good for hammering in nails. You can also use the claw of the hammer to pull the nails out if you make a mistake. Or in Michael Myers' case, you can also use the claw of the hammer to stick that into the top of the security guard. In fact, that's what ends up happening with security guard Garrett. Mr. Garrett. Decently detailed, I have to say, is the hammer, right down to the fact that they've actually put the little wood grain on the actual handle, and they've painted the top head of the hammer quite nicely in silver. It's one of his many tools. Michael Myers also comes included with a knife. You want mustard with that? Well, there isn't certainly any mustard. You can see there's a serrated blade. Ooh, it's not really sharp. Should never really joke about that. The blade has been painted well in silver, and also the handle has been painted well in brown. There's a little bit of bleed of the brown, as you can see, for the handle onto the blade, but not to the point where it's going to disrupt my feelings about this set. I still love all the stuff they've included with this set. Figure also comes included with a needle. Needle gets used a couple of times. Well, not literally the same needle. You should never share needles, but if you want to use different needles, I suppose. One needle was actually, in fact, lunged inside, stabbed in the eye of Dr. Mixter. A secondary needle was actually stabbed in the temple of Nurse Janet Marshall, if memory serves me correctly. What a gruesome death. Not only having it in the eye, but also putting a little bit of air in that, sticking in the side temple of Nurse Marshall. I love the fact that they've actually included this as well. It's pretty small, though, so yes, you're going to be quite prone to probably losing it if you're not too careful. And then, of course, the figure also comes included with a scalpel. I think most of the time when I consider Michael Myers from Halloween 2, I always seem to think of him with the scalpel. Although, to be fair, he was quite generous and shared around the love for these other weapons that he used in the movie as well. It wasn't always just the scalpel, but I think most people tend to always think of the scalpel with Michael Myers. It's pretty clean, though. He hasn't used it just yet. Eventually, I'm sure he's going to be sticking that to the back of Nurse Franco. Just keep making those noises. This, yes, can also be quite lost easily if you're not too careful. It's been painted well also in silver. And that actually, right now, out of the box, if you can believe it, I'm not making this up, you can actually take the scalpel and stick it quite nicely into Michael Myers' hand. The hand is really the best for the job right now. Of course, he does also come included with other hands, too. I mean, it's not just those 2 hands right there. The figure comes with a gestured hand or a relaxed hand. See, on both the sides. Dirty-looking hands. I certainly would not be running my lips across. Why are we even talking about that? I'm also just thinking about, Nurse Bailey, drowned in Michael Myers, drowned in a hot tub, scalding hot water. He also comes included with a couple of gripping hands, too. Good for holding the hammer, good for holding the knife. You want mustard with that? And also he comes included with another gripping hand, too. So he gets quite a lot of different hands. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the flame attachments. Actually, you know what? Let's not do that just yet. Let's talk also about the one other thing the figure comes included with, and that is the bloodied eye swappable head sculpt. I really like the look of this one quite a lot. Now, I'm going to do also some comparisons, too. I'm doing my best to really show you the difference between these. This is the newest one, right? This is the original bloodied eyes that came included with the Ultimate Michael Myers from Halloween 2. See the difference? I see the difference. It's definitely a lot better difference than... This one is a much superior head sculpt. I think the eyes are a little on the squinty side. I mean, they sort of seem a little too narrow, but I do think like the head sculpt is far better than the one we got before with the Ultimate release. With this particular mask, too, it was smaller and it had to be stretched across the larger head of Dick Warlock. That usually meant that his head looked like it was really tight. The mask was stretched. Why do we keep making that noise? It was stretched across his head is the point I was trying to make. I just want to show you what the stock head sculpt looks like, because obviously we're going to be changing that out in a second. Head-wise, they don't look too different from one another. The only real difference is the fact that this does have the bloody eyes. In actually both the cases, he does have the little needle mark also on the side of his head. So I think that's nice, the fact that they kept the consistency there in place. Both the head sculpts I would say is good on Michael Myers, depending on which one you definitely did want to go with. Like, the head does seem very noticeably more stretched, but it's not that different, really. I mean, it's pretty accurate to the way it looks in the movie. If anything, I would just say, like, maybe the eyes are a little too little too narrow. I'm going to compare it. Here's the original Michael Myers. Stock head, non-bloodied eyes for Michael Myers. You definitely see more of a difference. Like with this particular head sculpt, it's got more very narrow at the top, narrow at the bottom, and sort of wide on the ends because, of course, it's wrapping around Dick Warlock's head. It's got to be pretty tight if he was wearing that mask. This one seems definitely a little more rounded completely. I think this one definitely looks a lot more closer to the Halloween 2 mask that he has in the film. And just to show you guys what it looks like from the side. Hair is definitely a lot better here as well. Instead of having these little tufts of hair that they put on the original Michael Myers, they decided instead to sort of keep most of it slicked back. And I think it looks a lot more movie accurate. Costume-wise, I guess while we're certainly having both figures in frame right now, you can see that costumes aren't too different from one another. They're, yes, sharing the same mold, but the Halloween 2 Michael Myers that comes packed with Loomis definitely has a more shinier-looking coverall or boiler suit. As you can see as well, he has 6 bullet wounds. I shot him 6 times. You can actually count them off right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 on the shoulder, which was also the case here, also with the original release. The bullet holes are actually in the exact same spot. So really not too much different from a body standpoint. A lot different, though, when it comes to the head sculpt. And again, just to show you guys one last time of what that head sculpt looks like. I'm pretty happy with it. Are you pretty happy with it? Yeah, again, like the eyes, if anything, I think like the eyes are a little on the tad narrow side. But other than that, I think like the head sculpt is really, really good on this. To change the head out, by the way, you can easily just pop the head off. It's not so much even like a ball joint either. It's more like a ball post. And then we go ahead and just take the bloodied eye head sculpt, and we're going to put that back in place. Just push it down on that post. I shouldn't have any problems, and yet right now I'm having problems getting that back in place. There we go. And that's what Michael Myers looks like with the bloodied eyes. One last time, one opportunity last to see what it looks like, the difference between the two. Really good looking head sculpts. Yeah, liking the look at those quite a lot. As for the rest of his body, not much here does get changed. It's pretty much the same coverall suit we've already had a look at. It's a more darker green color than it is actually with the original Michael Myers figures tend to always go the route of being blue. And definitely here is a more notable green added hue that they've added to the coloring of the costume. You can see as well, there's some wounds there on the exit on the end of his torso here as well. Just a really nice looking suit. They haven't changed anything there. More of the change is certainly coming up at the top there. Now, okay, let's talk about his flame attachments. He does come with a lot of them, actually. They're all done in like a translucent yellow plastic. And there's ones that go on his torso, there's one that goes on his arm, and there's a couple that go on his legs. Because the way, see the opening there that goes onto his chest piece, it's very closed in at the top here. So you really don't want to fight it to get it across his head. And you really don't want to stretch this for the risk that you could break it. The best advice I would certainly make is take the head off first. Take then the actual flame attachment. And it sort of is frictioned on there. It's not to the point where it's going to be falling off anytime soon. And of course, it's definitely not going to be falling off anytime soon if you then put the head sculpt back in place. Michael Myers is only burning to a crisp. He's not decapitated after all. So that's one of them. And then you can go ahead and he's got a couple of these little leg attachments. Those can clip into place on the one side. And again, you can do the exact same thing on the other side. They're differently shaped. They're differently painted. But they're all very, very cool, the fact that they did that. And really good also on their part that they didn't use the magnets. I did like the magnet concept with the Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy Krueger. The only problem with it using the magnets is it never really properly stayed in place. I think having it frictioned on like this is the best guarantee to make sure it's not going to be going anywhere. There's also a smaller piece too that can then clip onto his arm. It just sort of, it's really the hardest of all of them to clip into place, but it's supposed to, let me just go ahead and just bring this around here. It's supposed to like kind of clip around onto his arm. Again, why we're having so many difficult times doing this right now. I had it going before. You know what? We'll go back to that. We'll go back to that. And then the last piece would have been a flame part that goes over top of his face. Now, you can decide for yourself really just to leave it as is. And at least now you'd be able to see Michael Myers' head. Or instead, kind of strange to see this, on the inside of one of the flames, the one that of course goes onto his face, can you see that? There's actually an imprint of his eyes, his nose, and his mouth. And the eyes, let me just tilt it up slightly so you can see, the part of the eyes actually stick up as little lips of plastic. So those actually fit right in the sockets of his eyes. Like if he wasn't having a hard time already being shot in the eyes, now he's actually getting flames wedged into the eye sockets. And that's what he looks like. The only thing, of course, that's left off here is the little flame part that goes onto his arm. which I find, again, is like the only one that doesn't really stay the best in place. There we go. All right. And that's what Michael Myers looks like. Engulfed in flames. Pretty cool. Or I should say probably pretty hot. I don't know if I'll ever really display Michael Myers like this. I mean, I like the idea that NECA Toys would have included it, obviously. But I think then you're losing so much of the sculpt on the head sculpt, the rest of his body. Again, unless I pick up another one, it's probably going to happen again. I'm going to pick up a second one for the 2 different looks for Loomis. Oh, man, I don't know. I don't want to say that I'm going to now pick up a third set, but the flame attachment, I have to admit, are pretty interesting to have on the figure itself, but I don't think I'll honestly use it just because I don't want to lose the sculpt that NECA Toys spent so much time and effort to sculpt in the first place. Talking about Michael Myers' articulation now, we're going to start things off first with his head sculpt. I'm deciding to stick with the bloodied eyes for the time being. Once again, just to show you guys what those eyes look like. How he's able to heal, I mean, keeping in mind, of course, it's a horror film and he always keeps coming back from the dead anyways, but how he's able to heal from getting shot in the eyes, both eyes. Ouch. Anyways, head rotates, yes, all the way around. It is on that ball post after all. It looks up as a resulting of that. It looks down also as a resulting of that. And you can also rock it back and forth as well. Shoulders. Now, again, the construction of this figure is going to be the same body build as the original Michael Myers. So all the articulation will still, the rules will still apply. Arms rotate all the way around. Figure does have not a 1, but a 2 double hinge on the elbow. Hands also rotate all the way around. And because, of course, he's contained inside of the coveralls, you really won't have any articulation. You kind of feel that there's something working behind the scenes. And this is soft plastic, after all. But you really can't to the point where you can move that. I guess you can kind of slightly crunch it down. But there's a fair bit of resistance because, of course, it's encased in softer plastic. And, of course, because the lower half of it is also that softer plastic, it also hides the joints rather nicely. You can bring the legs out on Michael Myers. You can take, of course, the legs, straighten them back up. You can bring them forward, yes. You can also bring them back. A mild swivel at the top of the thigh. Michael Myers only has a single hinge on the lower knee. Rotate the lower leg, yes. Hinging the feet back and forth, also correct. And he does have a nice, rather nice ankle pivot. Good looking Michael Myers. I gotta say, you know what, to be honest, seeing first the images online of this guy, I thought like the mask seemed a little off. Honestly, for reals. Now that I've actually seen this in hand, I've spent a little bit more time and quality time like looking at these figures that I always tend to do before I start hitting that record button. I like the head sculpts a lot more than initially I did. Especially the color scheme, like that darker color that they've added to the head. There's a lot of nice highlights and lowlights to the mask, which I really didn't think was the case when we initially looked at this guy right here. It is definitely a case where I feel like an improvement needed to be released, a version 2, if you will, of Michael Myers. They could have essentially just repackaged a brand new Michael Myers, keeping all the same accessories intact, but they didn't do that. No, NECA doesn't do that. Instead, what we did get treated to is not only a brand new Michael Myers, version 2, but we did get finally ourselves a fully posable Ultimate Dr. Sam Loomis. Whether you decide to display him, yes, in his suit look, or if you decide instead to display him with his trench coat, we're more leaning that towards that direction. Man, oh man, it's a nice looking set. We have been spoiled rotten by NECA Toys for Halloween 2 stuff. Now, I hope that, of course, some of that spoiling will get branched off into other Halloween films as well, not only just, of course, Halloween Kills, the recent 2018 stuff that we've been getting as well, but I hope also that we also start getting some more Halloween themed things. I know 78's sort of uncharted waters. It's a little harder to kind of get that licensing for, but at the very least, we already have ourselves a retro cloth Laurie Strode. You know, let's bring her in right now. It's not really technically, I guess you could really have the two figures together. Her head's a little on the bigger side, but that's probably going to be my stand-in for at least the time being until eventually we get ourselves an Ultimate Laurie Strode. Fingers crossed that that is actually the case. We already have, really, she's already lent her likeness, Jamie Lee Curtis, to a 2018 Laurie Strode, and also, of course, that Retro Cloth Halloween 2 Laurie Strode we're seeing right now. Ooh, I caught that one. I hope at some point we are going to be getting ourselves other Laurie Strode figures as well. One from Halloween 2, which I guess really wouldn't be that much different from this one right here. And dare I even say, eventually we do get ourselves a 78 Laurie Strode. Something that I wish that NECA Toys would eventually tackle. Again, I know licensing can always be a bit of a difficult thing, but for the time being, we do have ourselves a rather nice Dr. Sam Loomis and an equally nice Michael Myers version 2. While it may not solve my problems of wanting a second Sam Loomis, one workaround to getting a second Michael Myers is, after all, he is using the same body as the original Ultimate Michael Myers from Halloween 2, And you technically have two different head sculpts. You can already kind of see where I'm going with this. Connecting the dots, you can use the other secondary head sculpt that came included with this Michael Myers, and simply just use it with the body of the original Michael Myers from Halloween 2. So then you technically have two now improved Michael Myers with much better looking head sculpts. I might just consider doing that. Something I'm also deciding to do as well is maybe use the flames for the time being and attach them onto Michael Myers' body, but I'm going to leave off the flames that go on top of his face. The head sculpt, I think, is way too good to cover it by flames, even as good as those flames are that NECA did sculpt. A great looking set, though. A good follow-up as well to the original Michael Myers we got before. It doesn't feel like it's necessarily been double-dipped. It checks the boxes off of using the same body, yes, in some of the cases, using some of the same accessories, but you're feeling like you're getting at least a brand new Michael Myers, with not only a brand new coat of paint, but a brand new superior head sculpt as well. And of course, Dr. Sam Loomis, everybody's been wanting an articulated Sam Loomis since, I think, the first time the Night He Came Home set came out. At its time, it was a fine set, and I looked at this, I think, twice here on this channel. Have just recently, probably sold it about 5-6 years ago. I've parted ways with it, and now that I have myself finally an ultimate Sam Loomis, I can now finally say I don't miss that set. Prior to that, I kind of did have buyer's or seller's regret, because I thought to myself, why would I have sold that set if we never did get ourselves a Sam Loomis ever? Got the retro cloth, didn't really get ourselves an ultimate release. Now I can finally say 100% I'm not disappointed that I sold that set off. It's missing, of course, the diorama part of it, because, of course, it has the whole front of the house. But as a figure standpoint, I have much better figures here now released from NECA Toys. What do you guys think of this set? Let me know down below in the comment section. And, of course, a big thank you to the folks over at NECA Toys that did provide this sample of the Halloween 2 Michael Myers and a fully posable Ultimate Sam Loomis. We could have a look at in this review. What do you guys think? Let me know down below in the comment section. And, of course, yeah, if you are new to this channel, you're enjoying the content that you're seeing and you haven't already done so, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below. Turn the bell notification on so you're always going to be getting those friendly reminders and notifications of when new videos are popping up. And at the very end of this video, if you're more curious to see other NECA reviews that I've done here on this channel, a playlist for NECA will be popping up. Feel free to give that a gander if you have a little bit of time. There's going to be, of course, more NECA reviews lined up and coming your way. So as always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.